Ladies and gentlemen, stop everything, because what I'm about to tell you will change your life faster than you think possible. You have been conditioned to ask, to wait, to hope, but today I'm declaring the era of asking is over. Today you switch into command, because in the next 7 seconds you will activate a power within you so potent that miracles don't have to wait, they have to respond. If you're ready to stop asking and start commanding your reality. Stay with me. Most people spend their entire lives asking for opportunities, asking for approval, asking for success to finally notice them. They look up, they look around, but they never look within. Because deep down, they don't truly believe they have the right to command what they desire. That's where everything changes. The moment you stop asking and start commanding, your entire world begins to reorganize around your energy. Life doesn't respond to requests, it responds to authority. When you shift your posture from hopeful to certain, from waiting to creating, the universe stops treating you like an applicant and starts treating you like an architect. Commanding isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's knowing who you are at the deepest level of being that was never meant to beg for the very thing it was born to embody. Asking says, maybe I'll get it. Commanding says, it's already mine. The energy between those two sentences is worlds apart. When you ask, you position yourself beneath your dream. When you command, you rise to meet it out. Why? You stop hoping for miracles and start directing them, and that's not a metaphor. That's a shift in frequency, a change in identity. You see, everything you've been chasing has been waiting for you to stop chasing. It's like life keeps whispering, when will you realize you're the source? The power you're trying to summon has never been out there, it's always been waiting in you. But as long as you operate like a beggar of blessings, your commands carry no volume. Commanding is not about shouting louder at the world, it's about speaking with conviction that echoes through reality itself. When you step into command, your actions change. You stop negotiating with your fear. You stop seeking validation before you move. You don't ask, is it okay if I try? You decide it's happening now. That's the difference between those who dream and those who build. Dreamers ask for permission, builders act from purpose. Every great transformation begins when someone stops looking for a sign and becomes the sign. Think about it. Every time you've asked for something, part of you doubted you could have it. That's why you asked. You were seeking reassurance, but when you command, there's no room for doubt. Command is a statement of truth, not a request for comfort. It's a vibration that says, this is done, even when the evidence isn't there yet. The evidence always follows energy, never the other way around. The external world bends to the conviction of the internal one. That's why miracles respond faster to command than to prayer alone. Prayer is beautiful, but without conviction, it's just sound. Command is the embodiment of faith in motion. It's not asking God or the universe to do something, it's standing in your authority and co-creating with it. It's knowing that the divine doesn't move for those who whisper weakness. It moves for those who declare alignment. When your words carry the weight of belief, creation obeys. Commanding doesn't mean control, it means clarity. You no longer plead for what you already possess. You understand that everything in your life listens to the frequency you emit. Every result you see is a reflection of the tone you carry within. You want power, speak power. You want abundance, stand as abundance. You want peace, command stillness inside before expecting calm outside. The universe is not your servant, it's your mirror. That's why people who live in command radiate differently. Their presence carries gravity. They don't chase, they attract. They don't react, they initiate. Their voice, their walk, their silence, everything communicates authority. Not the kind born of ego, but the kind born of mastery. They've trained their energy to stand tall even when their circumstances are shaking. They've learned that leadership begins in the mind long before it appears in the world. The shift from asking to commanding doesn't happen overnight. It begins the moment you catch yourself begging for what you already deserve. Every time you feel that desperation, pause, take a breath, recenter your energy, replace I hope it works with I know it's done. Speak it, stand in it, walk like it. That is how you rewire your entire energetic blueprint. Commanding is not a performance, it's a remembrance. You're not trying to become powerful, you're remembering that you already are, and once that remembrance hits, there's no going back. Because when you've tasted what it feels like to command your reality, asking feels foreign. Waiting feels wasteful, doubt feels small. You no longer chase evidence, you create it. Every movement, every decision, every breath becomes a declaration that you are here to lead your life, not linger in it. So the next time you find yourself asking life for something, stop, stand tall. Lock eyes with the unseen and speak from certainty, not need. Don't whisper your dreams like confessions, deliver them like commands. Because the moment you shift your tone, everything starts to listen differently. Miracles are not far away. They're waiting for your voice to sound like you finally remember who you are. There's a moment small, invisible, fleeting that most people overlook. 7 seconds, that's all it takes to rewrite the entire trajectory of your reality. In those 7 seconds, the universe either moves for you or waits on you. Most people waste them reacting to fear, hesitation, and self-doubt. But the ones who lead legacies, they use them. They've mastered that exact space between thought and action, between belief and hesitation, and they use those 7 seconds to command their destiny. When an idea hits your mind, the countdown begins. You have 7 seconds before fear starts negotiating, before logic starts whispering excuses, before your energy drops from certainty to doubt. That's the window, the 7-second trigger where transformation is born. Most people feel the spark and let it fade. They say, I'll do it later. But later never comes because power doesn't live in delay. Power lives in immediacy, in that quick, decisive moment where your body moves before your fear talks you out of it. That's the difference between those who manifest their purpose and those who live in theory. The 7-second trigger is the ignition of command. It's where your intention leaves the world of thought and enters the world of momentum. Because the truth is, energy expands only when it's acted upon. Inspiration without movement decays into regret. But when you act within 7 seconds, you bypass the noise of limitation. You interrupt the program of hesitation that's been running in your subconscious for years. You stop thinking like a victim and start behaving like a creator. Every time you feel that pulse, that internal push, you have 2 choices, retreat or release. Retreat means you step back into your pattern. Release means you let your energy do what it was designed to do, move. Those who live powerfully don't wait to feel ready. They respond to the trigger. They know that readiness is born after movement, not before it. That's why their lives look different. They've trained themselves to honor the impulse of creation rather than negotiate with fear. Imagine every opportunity you've ever had, every idea that came to you at 2 a.m., every instinct that whispered, go now. How many of them died because you didn't act within those 7 seconds? You let the doubt crawl in. You let the opinions of others dilute your certainty. You allowed the mind to overthink what the soul already knew. That's the tragedy of hesitation, not that you didn't have potential, but that you delayed it long enough for the fire to cool. The 7-second trigger is sacred. It's your spiritual alarm clock. It's life saying, move now. When you obey it, momentum builds behind you. When you ignore it, resistance multiplies ahead of you. Action creates alignment. Hesitation creates chaos. The people who seem magnetic, unstoppable, divinely timed, they're not lucky. They just move when most people pause. They trust that the universe favors the bold, not the hesitant. When you honor the trigger, something shifts in your biology. Your energy recalibrates. Your posture changes. You stand taller, speak louder, breathe deeper. Because you've proven to yourself that you can move faster than fear, and once you've done that, you can't unlearn it. That's where confidence comes from, not from endless affirmations, but from a track record of obedience to your inner command. You begin to trust your instincts because you've seen what happens when you act on them. 7 seconds doesn't sound like much, but inside that space lies destiny. That's where dreams are either born or buried. You either activate faith or you feed doubt. Every major break through you've ever witnessed began with one of those quick, brave decisions. The call made, the message sent, the word spoken, the risk taken, it all started inside a 7-second window. The mind screamed no, but the soul whispered yes, and for once the soul won. That's the pattern you must master, thought, feeling, action, and you have 7 seconds before fear interrupts the sequence. The moment you sense that spark go, don't second guess it, don't wait for validation, don't rationalize the timing, move, because movement itself creates alignment. You can't steer a parked car, but once you're rolling, direction becomes clear. The same applies to your life. The clarity you're waiting for comes only after obedience to the trigger. You don't need to overcomplicate it. When you feel the energy rise, when your gut tightens, when your spirit leans forward, act. That's the moment your higher self is calling you forward. If you ignore it, you teach your subconscious that hesitation is safer than creation. But if you honor it, you reprogram your identity. You start living in command, not reaction. You condition yourself to trust power over fear, movement over doubt, certainty over confusion. The 7-second trigger is not just a concept, it's a training ground. Every time you respond instantly, your confidence compounds. Every time you delay, your power dissolves. So make a decision now. Never waste the 7 seconds again. When inspiration hits, breathe once and move. Send the message, start the task, make the call, take the step. The miracle doesn't show up when you think about it, it shows up when you move on it. Because when you master that 7-second window, you stop living on delay. You become the kind of person whose life expands as fast as their decisions. You move with divine timing, you act in alignment with power. You don't ask life for permission, you trigger miracles on command. And that right there is the shift from ordinary existence to extraordinary creation. 7 seconds. That's all it takes to prove to yourself that you were never waiting for the world to move, the world was waiting for you. Waiting is the silent killer of momentum. It disguises itself as patience, but it's really hesitation wearing a mask. People say they're waiting for the right time, the right sign, the right feeling, but truthfully, they're stalling because they're afraid of what happens when they finally move. The ones who lead with power, who build legacies, who command results, they don't wait. They act, they understand that waiting for clarity is a form of procrastination. Action creates clarity, waiting kills it. When you choose instant action, you take your power back from circumstance. You stop outsourcing your movement to the weather, the economy, the approval of others, or the alignment of stars. You realize that nothing external has to shift before you do. Every second you delay, doubt grows roots. Every moment you hesitate, fear tightens its grip. But when you move instantly, without negotiation, you sever the pattern of paralysis that keeps most people average. That's the moment you step into mastery, when movement becomes your default, not your debate. Instant action is the language of belief. When you truly believe in something, you don't wait to test the water, you dive. The mind that hesitates doesn't trust itself yet. It still looks for guarantees before it commits. But the truth is, there are no guarantees, only decisions that create outcomes. The people who seem to manifest opportunities effortlessly aren't luckier than you. They just act faster. They understand that momentum is a living thing, it thrives on speed. You hesitate, you lose energy, you act, you multiply it. There's a difference between waiting for a sign and being ready for the signal. The signal has already been sent. It was that idea that hit your mind, that vision that kept you awake, that impulse that said, start now. But instead of responding, you talked yourself out of it. You told yourself stories, maybe later. I'm not ready. It's not perfect yet. That's how dreams die quietly, not with rejection, but with delay. The universe rewards immediacy. It respects those who move the moment they're called, because instant action proves faith, and faith moves mountains. When you live with zero waiting, you move differently. You stop needing every detail before you start. You stop treating failure like a final verdict and see it as feedback. You start walking into the unknown with your chin up, because you know movement brings light. The path doesn't reveal itself to the thinker, it reveals itself to the mover. The one who moves sees, the one who waits doubts. Every break through that's ever happened started with a single imperfect action. Someone moved before it made sense. Someone acted when fear screamed no. That's what separates legacies from excuses. Instant action doesn't mean reckless movement, it means decisive movement. It's the courage to trust that your instinct carries intelligence. That the very impulse you feel to act is the guidance you've been waiting for. Most people don't lack direction, they lack decisiveness. They pray for signs while ignoring the instructions they've already been given. The sign is always in the urge to begin. The second you feel it, you've already been authorized. So move. Don't let your logic talk you out of your calling. When you wait, you invite resistance. Every hour spent analyzing drains the raw energy that was meant for action. That's why the idea that felt exciting yesterday feels heavy today, because energy decays when not used. You can't store inspiration, you can only express it. The more you act instantly, the more inspired you stay. That's how momentum compounds. You move, you get feedback, you adjust, you grow. But when you wait, you kill the fire, you become a spectator of your own potential. The truth is, waiting is comfortable. It gives you the illusion of control, like you're being careful or strategic. But deep down, it's fear dressed as wisdom. Real wisdom knows that life rewards movement, not perfection. The conditions will never be ideal. The timing will never be flawless. The people around you will never all understand. But your spirit knows when it's time, and when it's time, delay becomes disrespect. Because every second you hesitate, you deny the calling that's trying to move through you. Instant action is a declaration. I trust myself more than my fears. It's not about being fearless, it's about being faster than fear. Fear will always show up, but when you act instantly, you don't give it time to build a case. You outrun it. That's how warriors think. They feel the same hesitation everyone else does, but they move anyway. That's how you build power, not by eliminating fear, but by conditioning your nervous system to act despite it. So the next time you feel that tug, that whisper that says, "Do it now, obey it." Don't wait for the mood to return. Don't wait for the stars to align. Take the call, send the message, write the first sentence, start the first rep. The smallest step taken instantly carries more weight than the biggest plan postponed. Action activates grace. When you move, the universe moves with you. When you wait, it waits too. Zero waiting doesn't mean you never rest. It means you never pause on purpose out of fear. It means when your spirit says go, you don't ask how, you just go. You learn on the move, you build while walking. You trust that forward is the only direction. Because the truth is, the door doesn't open for the one who knocks, it opens for the one who pushes. That's the mindset of those who lead legacies. They live in motion. They understand that time doesn't give opportunity, action does. So stop waiting, stop calculating, stop asking for permission. Decide, move, adjust, repeat. The world doesn't belong to those who wait for it to change. It belongs to those who move fast enough to change it. There comes a moment when you realize no one is coming to grant you permission. No approval, no validation, no green light from the world will ever be enough to make you feel ready. Because readiness was never meant to come from outside, it was meant to rise from within. Every time you wait for someone to acknowledge your worth before you move, you hand over your power. Every time you second, guess your voice because you're not sure how it will be received, you shrink the very light that was designed to disrupt darkness. True power begins the moment you stop seeking permission and start trusting your own command. The people who lead legacies don't ask for approval to exist, to create, to speak, or to lead. They understand that external permission is a cage dressed as comfort. It tells you, wait until you're accepted, then you can rise. But real growth doesn't wait for applause. It moves before anyone claps. The ones who break through ceilings are the ones who never asked who built them. They realized the only voice that needed to say yes was their own. That's internal power, the unshakable authority that comes from knowing your value is not up for debate. When you live by external permission, your energy fluctuates with the opinions of others. You're powerful when they approve and powerless when they don't. You chase validation like oxygen, and every time it fades, so does your fire. But when your power is internal, you no longer need the world to agree with you. You operate from conviction, not consensus. You walk in alignment, not acceptance. You move forward whether they applaud or criticize, because your mission isn't to please, it's to impact. Most people never step into their full potential because they're addicted to permission. They wait for a mentor, a boss, a parent, or a crowd to say, "Now you can." But those who create legacy understand something deeper. No one can give you what you already possess. You were born authorized. The world might not always recognize it, but that doesn't make it less real. Power that depends on recognition is performance. Power that comes from within is truth, and truth doesn't ask, it declares. You have to break the conditioning that taught you to look outside for worth. Society rewards obedience more than authenticity. From childhood, we're trained to raise our hands, to ask before speaking, to earn permission before expressing. That training doesn't vanish when we grow up. It disguises itself in subtle ways: hesitation before posting that idea, fear before launching that project, doubt before speaking that truth. But here's the reality: the world changes only when someone decides their internal permission matters more than external approval. Every movement, every innovation, every revolution started because one person stopped asking and started acting. When you build internal power, you become immovable. You don't need validation to feel valuable. You don't need applause to know you're aligned. You can stand alone and still feel unstoppable, because your foundation isn't built on opinion, it's built on identity. You know who you are, you know what you're capable of. You trust your instinct even when others can't see the vision. That's where freedom begins, when your self-belief becomes louder than their disbelief. This isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about standing so firm in your truth that rejection no longer shakes you. It's about realizing that your worth was never meant to be measured by someone else's comfort level. The world doesn't always understand power that's sourced from within because it can't be controlled. That's why those who lead from internal command often face resistance first, but they always win respect later. Power validated externally fades when applause stops. Power validated internally grows even in silence. When you trust your own authority, you make decisions faster. You stop waiting for signs that you're enough. You start creating evidence through your actions. The doubt that used to delay you starts losing its grip because every step forward reinforces your belief. You realize that leadership isn't about being chosen, it's about choosing yourself again and again, even when the world doubts your ability to lead. That repetition builds unbreakable certainty. Every time you act without permission, you train your subconscious to remember who's in charge. That's how internal power compounds through repetition, through courage, through moments where you could wait, but you move instead. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you can't go back. You stop apologizing for being intense, ambitious, or different. You stop shrinking to fit into rooms you were meant to elevate. You stop playing small just to be accepted by people who haven't met their own greatness yet. The moment you stop seeking permission, the world starts mirroring your command. Opportunities that once ignored you begin to respond. People who doubted you start to listen, not because they suddenly changed, but because you did. You stopped vibrating at the frequency of approval and started radiating the energy of certainty. That energy doesn't ask to be seen, it demands to be recognized. So the next time you feel that pull to move, create, or speak, don't wait for the nod. Don't pause to see who agrees, move. The permission you're waiting for is your own. Once you give it, doors open faster, ideas flow clearer, and confidence becomes your default state. Because internal power doesn't chase acceptance, it creates alignment. And when you stand in that alignment, you become undeniable. The world can't ignore the one who stopped asking to belong and started commanding their space to expand. There comes a stage when chasing results no longer feels fulfilling. You achieve the goal, hit the target, win the applause, and yet something inside remains hungry. That's the moment when you realize life was never about collecting outcomes. It was about becoming someone worthy of creating impact that outlives you. Legacy begins where outcome ends. It's the point where you stop asking, what can I get from this? And start asking, what will remain because I showed up? When you reach that level of awareness, everything shifts. Your decisions deepen, your energy stabilizes, and your purpose becomes your compass, not your scoreboard. People driven only by outcomes burn out. They live in cycles of temporary highs and crushing lows, constantly chasing the next milestone to validate their worth. But those who live with a legacy mindset move differently. They play the long game. They understand that the true measure of success isn't what they accumulate, it's what they contribute. Their focus isn't on trophies, but on transformation. Every action, every word, every decision is intentional, because they know they're leaving footprints, not just impressions. When you step into that space, you stop performing for approval. You start operating from conviction. The noise of opinions quiets because your mission gets louder. You no longer need the crowd to see you. You need your impact to serve them. The legacy mind set frees you from the addiction to quick wins. It reminds you that temporary applause fades, but the echoes of your influence can last generations. You start playing for eternity, not just for the moment. Legacy thinkers understand something most people don't. The outcome is only the surface. The person you become in pursuit of it is the substance. You might fail 1,000 times on the way, but each failure refines your character. It sharpens your integrity, deepens your resilience, and stretches your capacity for purpose. When you think legacy, you stop asking, did I win? And start asking, did I grow? Because legacy isn't built through perfection, it's built through perseverance. The ones who change the world are the ones who refuse to be defined by immediate results. They understand that purpose often plants seeds they might never see bloom, yet they sow anyway, because they know legacy is not about recognition, it's about responsibility. It's about leaving something behind that makes the path easier for the next person. That mindset elevates everything. You start showing up with excellence not because people are watching, but because integrity demands it. You start speaking truth even when it costs comfort, because impact requires courage. When you lead from legacy, your energy shifts from pressure to presence. You no longer need to force outcomes, you focus on alignment. You know that when your intention is pure and your work is consistent, the results will follow, maybe not immediately, but inevitably. That kind of certainty gives you peace. You stop rushing the process because you trust the purpose. You stop comparing your journey because you know your impact can't be measured by another's timeline. Living beyond outcome doesn't mean you don't care about results, it means you don't worship them. You understand that success without significance is empty. So you aim higher than achievement. You aim for contribution. Every goal becomes a vessel for service, every victory a platform for influence. You start thinking in terms of legacy deposits, acts of value that will keep working long after you're gone. Because what's the point of winning everything if nothing you built lasts? The legacy mind It also demands accountability. It forces you to ask hard questions. Am I building something real or just something impressive? Am I living in a way that inspires others to rise or just a way that benefits me? If my name disappears tomorrow, will my work still speak? Those questions humble you, but they also empower you. They strip away the superficial and connect you back to what matters: your purpose, your principles, your people. You start realizing that legacy isn't about monuments or headlines, it's about the lives you touch quietly. The lessons you teach through your example, the strength you give others by showing them what's possible. True legacy isn't built in moments of spotlight, it's built in moments of consistency when no one's watching, but you show up anyway. Every day you live with purpose. You're engraving your name into eternity, not through fame, but through impact. There's a calm confidence in those who operate from this level. They're not frantic, they're focused. They're not chasing attention, they're creating transformation. Their energy doesn't fluctuate with wins or losses because their foundation is built on purpose, not performance. They understand that legacies aren't written in outcomes, they're written in the influence of your existence. So as you walk your path, stop asking how far you can go. Start asking how deep you can impact. Don't measure your worth by your results, measure it by the residue of inspiration you leave behind. Because one day the applause will fade, the titles will vanish, and the trophies will collect dust, but the people you've elevated, the values you've embodied, the energy you've released into this world. That's the real win. That's legacy, and that's the kind of success no outcome can ever replace. Here's your truth. You are not here to ask for scraps of life. You are here to stand in your power, to command what's yours, to manifest with certainty. The question is, will you stay in the queue asking, or will you walk up, take the megaphone, and say, I command my miracle, the 7-second switch is waiting, flip it, the world will respond, and from that moment on, those who stand in the legacy mind said, don't just wait for miracles. They become the miracle makers. So go, command, conquer, build your legacy, because your time is now.